Hello everyone, welcome back to the Apex Motorsport. I'm here at Snetterton in the British GT Paddock for what is round 5 and 6 of the 2021 Championship. We've just had qualifying. There was a slight delay at the start of the session by about an hour after there was a fire in one of the genetic team trucks. That has been resolved, and the motorsport community here in the paddock grouped together and make sure the team are able to run tomorrow because they have very little equipment left, but it's great to see the motorsport community come together like that. But let's take a walk through the paddock here at Snetterton to let you know how the teams fared in the first qualifying session of the weekend. What happened for the first qualifying session was that would set the grid for race 1. Both GT3 and GT4 both had two separate groups. First group set the grid for race 1, and the second group set the grid for the second race of the weekend. We're starting outside the garage here of the Beechton AMR GT3 team, the number 7 car of Andrew Howard and Johnny Adam. There was difference about this time is that Johnny Adam is back after having to miss the round in Spa in Belgium. Ross Gunn took over and they actually went on to go and win that race. First qualifying, Andrew Howard was in the car. He qualified in 7th, 1.5 seconds behind the pole sitter, so that's where they are going to start race 1. Race 2, Johnny Adam got a impressive 3rd place on his return, only 0.156 seconds behind the pole sitter. So that's where we're going to start, 7th in race 1, 3rd in race 2. If we move on down now to the Fox Motorsport team, they're in the GT4 class in the McLaren 570S. Their drivers, Nick Halstead, Jamie Stanley, the number 40 car. They've had a few decent enough sessions so far, but they qualified in 11th place for the first race, and for the second race they qualified in 12th. They're in around 2 seconds off the pole sitter in their class, so a bit of work to do, but I think the team will be satisfied given the difficulties they're having this season. The next garage is Ram Racing. For me, one of the favourites coming in to this weekend, the number 6 car of Ian Logie and Yelber Berman. Qualifying so far for them has been decent this season. A 6th place finish at the first weekend in Brands Hatch, but then 2 rounds ago in Donington they got a 1st place finish. In FP1 today they were 9th in a very disruptive first session where after about half an hour it started to rain, and as you can see here from Donington it is very wet. We've just had a very heavy rain shower. Luckily racing was over by that stage, but in FP2 they managed to get into 3rd place. But for the actual race itself, they will be starting in 8th for race 1 and 6th in race 2, so a little bit of work to do for them. I'm sure they know what it takes to get back up to the very front of the grid. Then we have one of the nicest cars in the grid for me. It's the number 27 Newbridge Motorsport Aston Martin. Matt Toppin, Darren Turner drive this car, and I think Darren Turner will be quite disappointed with his qualifying session. Could only manage 12th place, so that's where they're going to start race 1. That's 12th place in the GT4 category. But Darren Turner will be happy with a 2nd place finish in qualifying, which means for race 2 they will be starting on the front row. Hopefully they'll be getting many points this weekend. Then we move on to WPI Motorsport in the red Lamborghini, the number 18 car of Michael Agu and Phil King. For race 1 they're going to be starting in 5th, and they qualify 1.5 seconds behind the race leader. And for race 2 they're only 0.6 seconds off the fastest time, and will start race 2 in 2nd. Now if we move quickly on down now to Toyota Gazoo Racing, down this way, the number 15 car of the Toyota Supra, John Ferguson, Scott McKenna, they've had a few decent results so far this season. Potentially thought they were going to be in the lead, or at least contending for pole position this time, and they didn't. John Ferguson could only manage 9th place in qualifying for race 1, and for race 2 Scott McKenna managed 6th place. So like many teams in this grid, there's a bit of work to do, but I'm sure once the racing gets going they'll have a better race car than their actual qualifying car. Then we move down to me one alongside the Newbridge Motorsport. My favourite cars is the Ford Mustang. We all love a Ford Mustang. They are in the GT4 class, and it's the number 61 car of Will Moore and Matt Cowley. Very impressive first race qualifying performance for them, starting in 3rd, and they only starting 7th for race 2, so they can definitely pick up good points this weekend. Then we move on down to the Balf Motorsport in the McLarens. Stuart Proctor, Lewis Proctor, number 5 car, only got out for one of the qualifying sessions where they finished 9th. They didn't get out for the second qualifying session. So they'll probably be starting down the back of the grid, although that's yet to be confirmed. But they're one of a few teams that have multiple entries, and they also have the number 90 in the GT4 class with Jack Brown and Ashley Marshall. They're starting race 1 in 5th, and they'll be starting race 2 in 10th. Now we move on to one of the one-off entries. It is the Oman Racing with TF Sport. We have Ahmed Al-Hartley and Charlie Eastwood, obviously Belfast born. We like the connections to Northern Ireland. For race 1, they will be starting on pole position after topping the session, and for race 2, they'll be starting in 6th. So you'll notice a pattern that a lot, especially in the GT3 class, the teams that are starting race 1 at the very front are at the back of the grid for race 2, which will create some entertaining racing because we have 2 races tomorrow, 2 60-minute races in the sprint format for this, instead of the usual 2-hour races or even the 3-hour race at Silverstone. Then we move on to a very nice team indeed. It's the Team Rocket RGM McLarens. They have 3 entries, all in the GT4 category, and I do like numbers lining up. The entry number 2, 3 and 4. There's quite a lot to go through with this team. For race 1, the number 2 car is starting in 4th. Their number 3 car is actually starting on pole position, and the number 4 car is starting in 6th. And for race 2, their number 2 car is starting in 3rd, their number 3 car in 5th, and their number 4 car in 9th. So plenty of action for them. I don't know how they managed to do it with 3 cars for the team, but they have some of the nicest liveries in McLaren. We do like a McLaren here on the channel. And now we move on to a team that are returning this weekend. They haven't been here for a few weeks, and it is the GCAT racing team of Seamus Jennings and Greg Catton. They ended both sessions bottom each time. 11th place in race 1 because the Proctors got out for their first qualifying session. They didn't get out for Q2, so the GCAT team actually are starting race 2 in 10th place, which means they'll be able to work their way up. They did start the season pretty well at Brands Hatch, but they haven't been here for a few rounds, so we don't really know what to expect from them. Maybe they're just not suited to damp conditions, and you never know. It could be 25 degrees here tomorrow, sunny, nice, dry day. We don't really know. It's Snetterton. Anything can happen. Now, this is where qualifying is over, as I said, and the teams are starting to get packed up. So we got a lot of soap on the ground here, which is good to see. Cleaning the cars up for show tomorrow. We'll move on then further on down to the Asada Motorsport team GT4 category, number 56, Mark Sanson and Charlie Robertson. For race 1, they're starting 10th place, but for race 2, starting on pole position. Very nice to see indeed in the genetic car. Move down to Paddock Motorsport, and fans of reality TV and soaps will know one of these drivers, Kelvin Fletcher. He co-owns this team with Martin Plowman, and it was Kelvin Fletcher himself that put this car on the front row of a 2nd place start for race number 1, and for race 2, Martin Plowman can only manage an 8th place finish. But he's got plenty of overtaking potential, and they did say the car wasn't great in the wet, so if it is a dry race, they're ones to watch. Then move on to the Team Parker Racing, the number 66 car of Nick Jones and Scott Mulvin. Race 1 to start in 10th, race 2 to start in 9th, but they actually topped FP2 after a late session, after the checkered flag, when the track was starting to dry up. So I think they'll be pretty happy with the weekend so far. And then coming into the final 2 teams, Stellar Motorsport, number 42 car of Richard Williams and Sean Fielding. They're starting race 1 in 8th place and race 2 in 11th place. They're in the GT4 category. And if we move down to our final team, it is the Barwell Motorsport team. They have 2 entries. They have the number 1 car of Anna Ballon and Sandy Mitchell. Sandy Mitchell, the reigning champion going into the season, struggled for form compared to what people are expecting of them, and they start both races tomorrow in 4th place, so definitely ones to watch. And then we go to our pole sitter for race number 2. It is the 63 Barwell Motorsport GT3 car of Liam Machinsky and Dennis Lind. They're also going to start race 1 in 7th place. So they do have the pace, they do have the potential. Like all teams, nobody's really know what is going to happen. Weather conditions change all the time. It was sunny at some points today, it was very wet. As soon as racing finished, there was a lot of water coming down from the sky, and meant we had to sit in the media centre for a bit longer than we would have liked. But it will be interesting tomorrow to see what happens. As I said, we don't know. Leave your predictions in the comment below if you're following the British GT, and if you're here at the circuit, make sure you tag us in pictures so we can share it about, and hopefully It'll be an interesting race, and no one knows who's going to win, which makes it exciting because in British GT anything can happen. So we'll be back tomorrow with hopefully 2 of these paddock walks, paddock talks. Not quite sure the name. That's another thing. Leave in the comment below what you think the name of this series should be. But I think the sun's coming out here just as proceedings have ended for the day. Sky's getting dark because it's turning night. Grey skies that way, the sun's coming out that way, bit of grey skies over that way. I think this is just going to be a fantastic race tomorrow. 2 races. It'll be interesting to see. If something happens to the first race, they can make it up in the second race. So that is going to bring to an end this first paddock walk talk, name to be confirmed. So yeah, hopefully you'll join us tomorrow for hopefully two of these. And yeah, hope to see you tomorrow. Bye.